Issei wakes up only to find himself in an awkward situation with Devil Princess Riaz after the ordeal with House Phoenix, but Asha walks in, not wanting to be left out. Regardless, during breakfast, Riaz gains permission from Issei's parents for the rest of the Occult Research Club to come over after school as their meeting room is undergoing spring cleaning. Back at school, Motohama and Matsuda grill Issei about the rumors of him having a harem and doing sussy things with them, having the audacity to not bring them along. Suddenly, Kiryu interrupts them and tells Asha that she shouldn't be going after someone like Issei. Randomly, Issei's dragon arm awakens, forcing him to see Akino, where she explains that she must suck everything out of her fingers to help him, due to his dragon arm's spirit being stronger than expected. With her personalities and sadistic nature out in display, she proceeds to tell him that Riaz will get mad if she does anything more with him. Later, during the club meeting, the group goes over their contract numbers, where Issei ends the month with 0 completed, where he's warned that he will never become a high-ranking devil with those numbers. Meanwhile, Kiba becomes disturbed when he notices that a photo had a holy sword in the background. Nevertheless, Issei attempts another mission to gain a contract with a new client, which he finally successfully completes. Afterwards, Issei and the gang receive an order to hunt down a stray devil at an abandoned factory. The team manages to defeat the stray devil, albeit with some difficulties due to Kiba not paying his full attention to the fight. When questioned by Riaz if something is wrong, Kiba brushes it off as nothing and leaves soon after. However, when Issei follows in pursuit, worried about him, Kiba reveals to him that his very purpose of living is to seek revenge against the holy sword Excalibur. As such, back in his house, Issei questions Riaz about the holy sword and its relation with Kiba's strange behavior. Riaz then recounts Kiba's past and tells Issei that he was once part of a project called the Holy Sword Project, of which he was the sole survivor. Kiba, on his way back, witnesses a priest being destroyed by Fried Selzen, and is further enraged when he sees that Fried is in the possession of one of the 7 Excalibur swords, leading to a battle between the two. Meanwhile, 2 unknown individuals are shown arriving in town. As Kiba continues to battle Fried, he finds out that Fried is actually using one of the real Excalibur fragments, where he manages to hold him off until Fried throws a flash bomb and retreats from the fight. The next morning, Issei wakes up greatly surprised that not only Riaz is sleeping alongside him in her birthday suit, but Asha has joined as well. He then thinks about making a move on Riaz, but realizes that Asha will most likely get mad. Regardless, as he continues to daydream about the love triangle, Drake, the dragon residing in his sacred gear, suddenly starts talking to him and warns him about the vanishing dragon named Albion. Drake then explains that he will have to fight Albion one day, but Issei accepts his fate and proclaims that he will one day become a high-level devil and harem king in return. Back at the academy, Sona and Tsubaki witness 2 hooded figures standing outside the school gates, where Sona notices that one of them is wielding a holy sword. Meanwhile, Kiryu appears out of nowhere to tease the boys, but she ends up inviting herself and Asha to karaoke with them. Later, at the Occult Research Club room, Issei notices that Kiba is missing and questions Riaz about Kiba's past. Riaz then reveals that Kiba was previously a part of the Holy Sword Project, where he, being one of the failed products, had managed to escape before he could be disposed of before being found by her on the verge of his demise. Akino then arrives at the club room with Sona and Tsubaki and Tao, as Sona asks for Riaz to discuss the 2 people that she earlier encountered. Afterwards, as Issei and Asha head home, they sense that something is amiss at the house, causing them to rush there, only to find 2 strange girls talking with his mother, one of whom is actually his childhood friend, Arina Shido. Regardless, Issei heads back to his last client from the previous day to fully complete his pact. The next day, Xenovia and Arina arrive at the Occult Research Club, where they inform Riaz and the gang about their purpose being in the town, which is to actually retrieve the stolen Excalibur swords, but they also issue them a warning not to interfere with their work. Upon leaving, Xenovia notices Asha, who was previously known as the Holy Maiden before her excommunication as a witch, and berates her for becoming a devil. Seeing Xenovia further insult Asha, even going as far as to attempt an exorcism on her, Issei intervenes and challenges the girls to a fight, with Kiba joining his lead. As such, the 4 begin to prepare for battle. The fight quickly begins, where Issei faces off against Arina while Xenovia battles Kiba. Issei then thinks about using his signature move, but Arina is warned that Issei can easily blow away her clothes. On the other hand, Kiba begins dual wielding, but his swords disintegrate from a single hit of Xenovia's Excalibur of Destruction. Issei then attempts dress break on Arina, but he accidentally misses and gets dealt with by Kaneko. However, Issei suddenly falls to his knees while Kiba simultaneously loses to Xenovia as well. After their defeat, Xenovia reveals to Riaz that the one who has stolen the Excalibur swords is a fallen angel named Kokabiel, leader of the Grigoris. Kiba then informs the two exorcists that Fried is involved with the fallen angels as well, but is only met with a warning to not get involved. Back at the Occult Research Club, Kiba storms out of the building, still extremely frustrated over his loss to Xenovia. The next day, Matsuda and Motohama are overjoyed with Asha confirming that she's coming to karaoke, but Issei is seemingly occupied. After finally deciding that he's going to assist Kiba in his endeavor of seeking revenge against the Excalibur swords, he coerces Saji into his plans with Kaneko's help. As such, the trio venture off to find both Arena and Xenovia, where the trio encounter the two begging for money on the streets. They take the two to dinner, where Issei explains that they want to help them with destroying Excalibur. Xenovia agrees, telling Arena that it would be quite difficult to retrieve all three swords on their own. Now teamed up, the group descend upon Kiba, where Xenovia reveals that the Archbishop of Annihilation, the man behind the Holy Sword Project, has been branded as a heretic and excommunicated by the Church. Shortly after the two exorcists leave, Kiba thanks them and recalls the experiences he had to endure under the Holy Sword Project, where he was stripped of freedoms and treated as trash. Unfortunately, the experiment was a failure, so they had to be disposed off to hide what has occurred. As he escaped and on the verge of dying, Rias appeared and took him under the banner of House Gremory. Back in the present, Asha appears to cheer up Issei with a nurse outfit, explaining that Kiryu told her that he would feel better if she showed up as so. Later that night, Issei meets up with Kiba and the others, starting their plan to destroy the Excaliburs. Meanwhile, a mysterious young man appears beside Issei's client. As Issei and the others start their operation to search for Fried and the remaining Excalibur fragments, they discover that Fried is lurking around an abandoned warehouse, which was previously used by the stray devil named Visor. Kiba then engages Fried in one-on-one combat until Issei, Saji, and Kaneko intervene, giving them a numerical advantage. However, before they can finish off Fried for good, an elderly man suddenly appears, introducing himself as Valper Galilei. With some advice from Valper, Fried manages to get better control of his Excalibur, thus causing the tides of war to reverse. However, before he can overpower Kiba and the group, a timely arrival of Xenovia and Arena foils Fried's plans and saves them. Valper, realizing that the situation is quickly escalating, suggests that they should escape, which they then do after Fried successfully uses his flash bomb. Kiba, Xenovia, and Arena then chase after the two as the others arrive at the scene. Meanwhile, Issei and Saji are punished with 1,000 spankings for taking action without seeking permission. Back at the Huda residence, seeing Asha greet both her and Issei, Rias decides to accept the sussy challenge. The next day, when Rias, Akino, and Kaneko dispatch their familiars throughout the city in order to search for missing trio, they find an injured Arena lying outside the town's outskirts. After healing her with Asha's help, Tsubaki takes Arena to the Citri residence for further treatment. Fried once again appears, this time revealing that he now has the possession of all 4 Excalibur swords, ever since he had stolen Arena's Excalibur mimic. He then introduces his boss, Kokabiel, one of the leaders of the fallen angels. Kokabiel then reveals his true motive behind stealing the Excaliburs, which is to ignite another great war amongst the 3 factions. Disappointed that Michael only sent grunt exorcists to stop him, Kokabiel decides to target the devils of Kuo Academy in order to force the hand of the 4 Satans. After the fallen angel leader uses a small attack as a diversion, Issei and the others head back to the school to prepare for their upcoming battle with Kokabiel. Meanwhile, at the academy, Valper and Fried are shown to be inside a magic circle, undergoing an unknown ceremony, as Kiba and Xenovia overlook the situation from afar. With the battle looming closer, Sona and her team create a powerful magical barrier to surround Kuo Academy, while Arena, Xenovia, and Kiba are still missing from action. With a massive danger on the horizon, Akeno reveals that she contacted Lucifer, the Devil King himself, for assistance against the fallen angel leader. As such, the group heads on forward where Issei is moved to a support role, so he can transfer his promotion powers to others within the squad. Upon reaching the courtyard of the school, Kokabiel reveals that the Excalibur fragments are going to be forged into one, allowing supreme magical powers to form within it. As he toys with the group, Kokabiel summons the Watchdog of Hades to take care of the Gremory team. During the battle, both Rias and Akino transform into their devil forms to launch a counter-offensive with Kaneko, while Issei attempts to boost their powers. Suddenly, Xenovia appears out of nowhere to save Issei, and she easily defeats one of the Cerberus demons in a single blow, until Issei finally is able to fully boost the girls. As such, Kiba also comes out of the shadows and protects Asha, while Akino blasts away the last of the Watchdogs. However, during the entire ordeal, Valper succeeds in combining the 4 Excalibur fragments into one, allowing Kokabiel to gain massive power. With his own style of Rasengan, he lands a direct hit on Akino and Rias, causing Akino to fall from the sky. Meanwhile, Kiba charges towards Valper, but is easily dispatched due to him being hellbent on getting revenge on Valper. Fried then picks up Excalibur to commence battle against a very flexible Xenovia, where he uses shadow clones against her only to be dealt with after forgetting about Kaneko and Issei. Meanwhile, a battered Kiba confronts Valper, learning the truth of the Holy Sword project, and with the help of his friends from both the past and present, Kiba successfully manages to attain his balance breaker, the Sword of Betrayer. Kiba, using his newfound powers in tandem with Xenovia, who had summoned her Durandal, manages to successfully destroy the fused Excalibur. With Fried and the Excalibur out of the equation, Kiba then attempts to vanquish Valper only for Kokabiel to deal a final blow. Now apparently bored with distractions, Kokabiel taunts Issei to boost as much as he can and to transfer his power, so with hands clasped together, he does so with Rias. As Issei continues to power up alongside Rias, he finally transfers his boosted powers to her, much to the excitement of Kokabiel. She then unleashes a massive magical attack to no avail. Akino then also tries to attack Kokabiel with her lightning powers, but he realizes that Akino is the daughter of the fallen angel leader Barakil, so Kokabiel makes fun of Rias, claiming that she has the same habit of taking in weird people, very much like her brother. Angered by Kokabiel's insults, Issei decides to take on Kokabiel himself, where he calls Issei stupid. Nevertheless, Xenovia, Kiba, and Kaneko begin attacking Kokabiel to buy time for Issei to boost his powers. However, despite the combined effort of all three, they still can't manage to inflict any significant damage on Kokabiel. Suddenly, in the midst of battle, Kokabiel proceeds to reveal that during the Great War of the past, both God and the 4 original Great Devil Kings actually perish in battle, much to the surprise of everyone in the present, especially Asha and Xenovia, who were shocked by the revelation. Despite the leaders of the 3 factions hiding the truth, Issei strongly states his dream of becoming a harem king no matter what, and along with Rias' sussy body incentive, Issei manages to rekindle his friend's fighting spirit by attacking Kokabiel, powered by sussy thoughts and passion. However, before the fight could continue, the barrier field surrounding the school ground is destroyed as a new figure descends from the sky. Naming himself as the White Dragon Emperor Albion, the newcomer then proceeds to defeat Kokabiel, tearing off his wings before negating the self-destruct spell that was previously cast on the school. He then collects Kokabiel and Fried from the school ground and leaves with them in order to make them, especially Kokabiel, answer for their crimes. Glad that the battle is over, Sona and her team proceed to fix up the school while Kiba, having truly managed to get over his past with the help of his friends, swears fealty to best girl Rias once more, vowing to serve her alongside her other servants. The next day, both Issei and Asha are surprised to see Xenovia appearing in the Occult Research Club, wearing a cool academy uniform. Xenovia then reveals that after learning about God's death, she reincarnated into a devil as Rias' knight and thus apologizes to Asha for her earlier rude remarks about the latter's past. Later, as Issei plays a video game with his client, who at the end reveals himself as the fallen angel's governor, Azazel, much to Issei's surprise. As Azazel continues to reveal his identity to Issei, he remarks that he infiltrated the town after getting wind of Kokabiel's plans, and since he couldn't get directly involved, he sent an Albion to deal with him. He also tells him that the leaders of the 3 factions had decided to hold a summit, so Issei informs the Occult Research Club of the newfound information. The next day, the gang meets up with Xenovia, where the Occult Research Club is tasked with cleaning out the pool. Out of nowhere, Kiba announces to Issei that he will protect him no matter what, but his sussy speech alone in the changing room causes Issei to run out. Afterwards, Issei's dragon arm starts acting up again, forcing Akino to do some while the rest cleans up the pool. As Akino does the she starts baiting him and asks Issei to keep a secret. Unfortunately, Rias ruins the moment. After punishing him, a jealous Rias leaves the two, whereby the annual anime swimsuit episode commences. Rias then asks if he likes her swimsuit, but Akino interrupts her while Asha appears as well, much to the delight of Issei. Later, Issei begins teaching Kaneko how to swim while both Rias and Akino begin competing with each other. As such, Issei pulls a big brain move to zoom in on the two, before having to teach Asha to swim as well. Rias then attempts to bait Issei by ordering him to apply sunscreen on her back, resulting in a battle between Akino and Rias. Sauce is episode 7 season 2 for the cultured people. Regardless, after running away from the pool, Issei encounters Xenovia, who reveals she wanted to have a serious discussion with him. She then brings him into a room and says she has finally decided to have a womanly dream, which is to have a baby, but she wants her child to have his unique and strong genes. However, Rias and Akino arrive, where Akino states that she will be the one taking his first, Back at the Occult Research Club, Surzex and Grafia arrive at the club room to greet Riaz and her peerage, revealing that he was there for Riaz's class observation day, and he's here to investigate the area that will be used as the place for the meeting of the three factions. As such, Surzex and Grafia then head off to the Huda residence to greet Issei's parents, where Surzex agrees to spend the night in Issei's room. The next day, Riaz leaves the Huda residence earlier to guide Surzex and Grafia, while Asha goes to Zenovia's apartment, leaving Issei to walk alone to the school, where Issei encounters a young man who names himself as Vladi, the White Dragon Emperor. As Vladi proceeds to approach Issei, his dragon arm acts up again, but Vladi is stopped by Kiba and Zenovia. Upon this, Vladi rebukes them by claiming that if they can't beat the likes of Kokabiel, then they would stand no chance against him. Vladi, after asking Issei about what rank does he think he's at, replies that he must be in a 4-digit range when it comes to strength, due to his incomplete balance breaker. Vladi then tells Riaz to nurture Issei properly and leaves after saying he's a busy person. Now resting in the sick room after meeting Vladi, Dre begins talking to Issei and compares Vali's complete form, but Issei asks about his relationship with Albion. Dre then explains how the Heavenly Dragons didn't pick a side during the Great War, but two dragons began a fight, causing the three factions to team up against them. In the end, the two dragons were sealed within humans as sacred gears, thus explaining the history of the two. Back in his classroom, Issei is once again put into a comical situation due to Zenovia's lack of common sense with rubber protection, making him run away from the classroom. Afterwards, he runs into Riaz and Akino talking with Sona and Tsubaki, discussing their meeting with Vladi earlier and their concern about the upcoming class observation. On the day of the class observation, after finishing his class, Issei meets up with Riaz and Akino until they hear about someone cosplaying in the gymnasium. Heading there, Issei meets Seraphal Leviathan, Sona's older sister and the current Satan with the title of Leviathan. Back at the Huda residence, Issei's father, Riaz's father, and Surzex are seen enjoying the videos that they took during the class observation, causing Riaz to run away in embarrassment, especially after Surzex's comment. Issei then follows Riaz, and the two share another intimate moment until Asha opens the door and says that Riaz is not being fair. As such, Riaz replies that the one thing that she learned from Akino is to be aggressive in romantic pursuits, making Asha reply that she will just have to take him by force if such a need arises. Surzex, however, interrupts and makes them stop fighting and gives Riaz permission to unseal her other bishop. Now having permission to release the seal from Lucifer himself, Riaz and the Occult Research Club unleashes the unknown power behind the door. A scream is then heard as Akino removes a coffin, revealing a sussy boy wearing a female school uniform, whom Riaz introduces as Gasper Vladi, the other powerful bishop under the Grimoire household. Afterwards, Gasper accidentally freezes time when Issei accidentally touches him. As such, Issei learns that Gasper possesses the sacred gear called Forbidden Balor View, which was the main reason for him to be sealed up due to his incapability of controlling the powerful ability. Nevertheless, Riaz, Akino, and Yudo leave to help in the preparation for the meeting of the three factions, thus leaving the others to train Gasper. During the training, Azazel comes to the rescue at the schoolyard, where he teaches Saji, Issei, and Gasper how to better control his sacred gear before departing. Afterwards, Issei and the others take Gasper to the gymnasium, but he tries to escape once again and heads to go into seclusion after the training. As such, Riaz arrives to help, and she explains that he was hated by his own kind due to his power, much like Asha's past. Regardless, Issei gets pumped up to help him, so he explains to Gasper that much like himself, he also has great power within him that he doesn't really understand. Eventually, Gasper comes out after being able to relate and begins to be more open with Issei, while also sharing their future goals. Afterwards, Yudo arrives and Issei begins to explain his plan to do sussy things to girls with the help of a time freezer. Suddenly, the girls arrive and Kaneko throws garlic at the vampire while Zenovia places a paper bag on Gasper, somehow completely alleviating his problems with the foolproof plan. The next day, Issei and Asha meets Riaz and Akino, where Riaz tells him to meet up with Akino at her place. Issei then goes to the shrine with Akino, who, while wearing her Miko outfit, greets him. Afterwards, Issei is greeted by a new figure who introduces himself as Michael, the leader of the angels. As Issei meets the leader of the angels, the Archangel Michael, he receives the holy sword called the Dragon Slayer Ascalon. Michael then proceeds to ask him to assimilate it into his boosted gear, since he's the rumored weakest host of all time. Michael then explains that this gift is for him in hopes of joining forces again, as there was only one time in history that made all three factions stop fighting, and that was against his own red dragon. As such, Issei accepts and his sacred gear is transformed, but before he gets a chance to ask Michael a question, he teleports away. Afterwards, Issei asks Akino if she's really a daughter of a fallen angel leader, to which she answers by revealing her half-devil and half-fallen angel wings. Now knowing her true identity, Issei proclaims that he hates fallen angels, but doesn't matter what a Kino is since she's still a Kino, and he likes her. As such, this results in Issei's deepening of his bonds with Akino, who gives him a lap pillow, and a sussy moment happens, but jealous Riaz interrupts the moment and forces him to leave with her. Issei then leaves with Riaz, heading back to the school to help Gasper with his training. Luckily, Gasper shows great improvement in controlling his powers, which pleases Issei since he can do sussy things with time freezing. However, after accidentally freezing Issei's arm, Gasper gets motivated by a powerful speech from Issei. Later, while Issei is in his room, he contemplates how he should have been more considerate about Akino's feelings while asking about her past. While he's thinking to himself, he hears a knocking on his door. Riaz then enters with Akino following her and explains that due to the meeting and preparations running late, she would be staying overnight at his house. Regardless, as Issei notes that Akino is back to her usual self, Riaz comments on how he said that he liked Akino no matter who she was and no matter where she came from. This led to a friendly fight over who can comfort Issei the most until Asha walks in, realizing that Riaz and Akino have got the upper hand in the battle for Issei's affection. Asha gets upset. The next morning, Issei wakes up feeling heavy, and when he sees Riaz, Asha, and Akino all sleeping with him, he screams. On the day of the conference, Riaz and House Gremory head to the meeting room, leaving Koneko and Gasper behind. At the meeting, they meet Azazel and Vladi, who are representing the fallen angels, Michael, who's representing the angels, and Surzex and Seraphal, who are representing the devils, as the three factions start the meeting. Meanwhile, a group of mysterious people approach Gasper and Koneko, who are standing by at the occult research club room. The mysterious people then reveal they're humans, explaining that they are magicians able to manipulate devil magic, but they are only after the half-vampire Gasper. Koneko then escapes with Gasper, but she gets hit and knocked out, allowing the magicians to capture him. Meanwhile, the meeting between the leaders of the three factions continues, with Michael revealing that God and the Devil King have both been eliminated. Azazel then asks both Issei and Vladi for their opinion about the peace treaty, hear how powerful they are as dragon emperors. Vladi remarks that he just wants to fight the strong. On the other hand, Issei learns that he can make babies with Riaz if there's peace, so he shouts for peace. Afterwards, Issei asks Michael why Asha was excommunicated, so he explains that once God was destroyed, the system now barely functions and they had to excommunicate all those who knew of God's absence. As such, both Zenobia and Asha reveal that they're happy now. Nevertheless, Azazel speaks out about his subordinate who destroyed Asha, so Issei gets angry at him, turning the room tense until the time is suddenly frozen over. Upon looking outside the window, they witness many magicians appear out of a magic circle, who proceeds to bombard the meeting place. They then realize that Gasper must have been kidnapped, causing the balance breaker conditions. Surzex then reveals that if Gasper's powers grows even more, even the leaders will be frozen. As such, Riaz plans to rescue Gasper alone, but she borrows Surzex's power, allowing Issei to come along. Meanwhile, Vladi starts to battle the magicians outside, annihilating them all with utmost ease. Riaz and Issei, by using Riaz's unused rook piece, then transfer to the old school building through castling. Before leaving, Azazel gives Issei 2 special bracelets to control both his and Gasper's sacred gears. Back with the leaders, a new woman, Kateria Leviathan, appears after Issei and Riaz leaves and proceeds to attack the leaders. Azazel, after insulting her, then starts a one-on-one battle with Kateria. With their powers on show, Riaz explains that Katlia is a descendant of a former devil king. Shortly after, Riaz orders Issei to promote himself to queen right before they arrive at the room where Gasper and Koneko was being held captive. Meanwhile, Kaibex Zenobia and Arena join in on the fight against magicians, while Grafia analyzes the magic circle used by the magicians. Back at the room where Gasper and Koneko is held captive, Riaz assures Gasper that she would never abandon him, while Issei quickly lets Gasper drink his blood, allowing Gasper to properly control his powers. Thus, both Koneko and Gasper is freed from their chains, allowing Issei to finally use Dress Break as the finishing blow. Next, he places the additional bracelet on Gasper, allowing them to head out. The battle between the magicians and the three factions continue as Gasper destroys the transportation circle used by the magicians, and Azazel defeats Kateria after revealing his artificial sacred gear, the Downfall Dragon Spear. Suddenly, Vladi attacks Azazel, revealing that he was actually the traitor that betrayed them, as he laments on Issei being his rival. Proposing to destroy Issei's parents to make Issei become an Avenger so that he can become stronger, Issei gets angry and enters his balance breaker. He then proceeds to battle Vladi, but his efforts proves to be futile. Now taking the huge risk of taking in the power of the Divine Dividing into his boosted gear, Vladi uses his Have dimension. As such, Azazel purposely says that Vali's ability will make chests smaller, so Issei's power starts increasing drastically to the point where he manages to inflict damage to Vali. Vali then prepares for a counterattack, but a new figure, Big Q, appears, interrupting the fight as he and Vali retreats. After the fight, Issei asks for Michael's permission to allow Asha and Synovia to pray to God while Azazel leaves with his men. A few days later, Azazel appears at the Occult Research Club as the new advisor of the club under Surzek's request to help Issei, Yuto, and Gasper master their sacred gears. He also reveals to them that Surzek has ordered for the girls of Ryu's peerage to move into the Issei's residence. As the girls move in, Ryu decides to ask Surzek to renovate the house.